So today, this is our lesson 5. This is more about writing repair orders. We talked last webinar in the series on Wednesday about kind of the overall workflow, the new structure, the CCC structure of writing service, where we have a reason for service and then we put parts and labor on underneath that. We also talked a little bit on Wednesday about styles of writing service, and I shared with you guys that I actually go into a repair order and I put in the body of the repair order everything I find on the vehicle. And remember, we talked about this. If they said, you know what, I really can't afford to do the alignment at this time, remember, if we delete this, if I hit the delete button in the lower right, it'll say, are you sure you want to delete this? I say yes, but it also, if it wasn't the first time, which obviously I've done it a few times, it will say, do you want to recommend this? So it will throw it under recommended. Now, what were some of the reasons why we use this format? Was, first of all, if they decide they want to do the work, let's say, you know, go ahead and do that, replace that belt. We just highlight it, add it to request, and look, there's no details here. And these recommendeds don't show the details on the customer invoice, but with this line highlighted, I can hit view details so I can see my labor and my parts. Or when I add it back over to my requests, and I say add to request with all these little check marks checked, it will bring it back to the body of my repair order. You guys see we have a couple options on how to write service. Find everything on a vehicle, pitch it to the customers, what they want to buy, what they don't, and then delete it and move it over to recommended for later. Again, I talked about why I think this is so cool is in the Make an Appointment wizard. If you hit this button to make an appointment, let's say they're on the phone, it prompts you in that Make Appointment wizard to say, oh, hey, last time we were in here, we had some recommended. You want to add those at that time. That's one of the reasons why I prefer the recommended structure of writing service over the quotes. But today, we are going to cover the quotes feature because there are some benefits there as well, okay? What we were also going to cover in today's webinar is we're going to go over these links, the blue underline on the left. These are what we call links. We're going to cover these links, and we're also going to cover what's under options. Now, one other thing I wanted to actually show that came up in a webinar yesterday was, you know, a lot of folks will say, how can I customize the view? I just hit preview repair order. How can I customize the look of my RO? Really, guys, the only thing you have options to do is take this disclaimer up here in the upper left, and you can choose to put it at the bottom in the lower left. That's really the only other thing we can, you know, customize. You can choose whether or not you want to have signature lines. You can actually leave all this blank if you're in a state that doesn't require these disclaimers or these signature lines. So that's a possibility. But the one other thing that a lot of people do like to do is put a custom logo in. So I wanted to show you guys really quick. Make sure I don't have I have a bunch of newcomers that came in after we started the call. Welcome, guys. And just a reminder, we're recording today's webinar, so I can put it under archive webinars. We have the ability to put a custom logo either on just the right-hand side where this says Ascent Automotive, or we can do a custom logo that goes all the way across the top. So I'm going to go ahead and start by showing you guys how to do that. So if I just go into my C drive where I have my Scott Systems folder, let's bring this over here, go down to Scott Systems, go into my MaxxTraxx Pro folder, and guys, we have a PDF on our website with directions. This is also in the user manual. And of course, we'll help you with this. We go into the data folder and select on company. Now remember, we have two databases in our software program. We have a sample database that you guys can play on. We're going to talk about that utility as well. And we also have company. This is where all your real live company data is. Okay, so I have, look at all these little logos. I have a bunch of people's little logos. So they're actually one of my favorites. As long as you name this RO full, I'm going to just rename it. Okay, all I have to do. Now if I preview this, check this out. This is a custom logo. So you guys can do whatever you want up here on the custom logo. We also have the option, close out of here, I'm going to go back into that folder where I had Jennifer's. I'm going to rename it back to Jen's. We also have just what we just call, let's see, RO logo, this one. Now this is RO full, goes all the way across the page. This one just says RO logo. This is just the right side. Let's see what this looks like. Close this and preview repair order. So you guys see I can just have a logo on just the right side. So a couple of options. That's really it, though. We don't have any other way to customize the format or the structure of our repair orders. Okay? Any questions on that, Amanda? Does that make sense? I don't know if Amanda's on.
No questions, and that is absolutely awesome.
Okay. Was there anything else, Amanda, though, that you guys were looking to customize, maybe? Or was that kind of just
I was wondering about fonts and stuff, but, I mean, really, this is so much cleaner than what we've had. You know, it's better.
Yeah, we don't actually have, you're right, we don't have any ability to change fonts, and I know it's small, but it's kind of what we're dealing with. I do have some people, as far as, not on the printed RO, but if you want to, you can change the font here that shows that we actually, depending on what version you guys are on, we actually did increase this font from 0.8, or from 8 points to 9 points. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it did change a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So we do all, you can actually do a Windows setting to put it to 125%, which also helps some people with fonts be a little bit better.
Okay, great.
Okay, guys. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the workflow of using quotes and how that works. Now, obviously you spend most of your day on this, on the service counter, writing ROs all day long, right? So instead of, let's take this one at the top. Instead of adding to this open RO, this is the stuff that's already been approved and that this customer is already going to do. Let's say we wanted to add a transmission service. So they're already at $500. See our total in the lower right? They're already at $500. Well, let's see about adding something. So another option, instead of just putting it into the body, is we can go outside and click the right quote. I say outside of the RO and click right quote. Now, it's a quote for a customer in a vehicle, not a quick quote. And you just look up the person's name and select their vehicle. And here, it looks very much the same, but it just says quote. And I might just throw on, let's see, you guys know I'm a junkie for kids. I love these kids. Tranny flush. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So here I've got this with all these little conditioners, right? $272. I can just click OK, save. So I can just save this quote, which will save it in the customer's vehicle record. I can print it if I want to print it out. And, you know, I'll be honest, you guys, the only year that I ever wrote service full-time, I was actually using Mitchell. And the one feature in Mitchell that I really like is the ability to actually print out the quotes and set them in front of the customer and say, here, these are the different jobs that we think we need, you know, to have done on your vehicle. It kind of has a cool feel, and that's why some people do print these quotes. So they have them to actually hand to the customer to either do now or to do down the road, 3 to 6 months. We can, if we didn't already have an appointment started, make an appointment in 3 months for this person and apply this quote, or we convert it to a repair order. But of course, here, it would start a new repair order, and we already have one for Lucy, so we just want to save it. So if we did that, I can go back into this open RO. Come on, open it up. And click the quotes button. And here it is. Here is my tranny. So I can actually add this right at this point. I can click select, and add this to my existing RO.
That's fine.
So that's the other format, guys. To me, I think it's a lot easier just to build it in the body and also save it as a recommendation. Because let's say we don't add it. Okay, let's say we don't add it. And we create another appointment down the road, let's say in 3 months, for this customer. You see this? Quotes available warning comes up. It says, hey, Sabrina, there are quotes available for this customer and the vehicle that you chose. You can access these from the RO. Well, what I like is when I'm actually making the appointment, I can actually say what those recommended services are. With quotes, I can't. So you guys see where I'm at with this? It's kind of why I like to use that other workflow. This may be something we overhaul down the road. Okay, so here, of course, I can make my appointment. I'm going to make this for, let's say, March. The person's going to come back in March 2012. Okay, and I hit next. You see, I've got all my recommendeds here. That's why I like to use that workflow instead. Any thoughts on that, guys? Any thoughts on workflow preferences? Do those both make sense?
Seems simple enough to me.
Okay, okay. So now we're going to, like I mentioned, I want to run through the links in the options, and then we're going to talk a little bit about sublet labor and how sublet labor is tracked in MaxxTraxx. It's a little bit different than certainly our old DOS version that Amanda was on, that Randy, you were on. So let's talk about, first of all, links. Okay, this is repair order view. You guys see that we are on this like 95% of the time. The labor view is really just that. It's just a view. It just lists all your labors together and puts all your parts together. This is just kind of cool to be able to see, so what do I have on the ticket? It's really, I don't actually see these two very often. Warranties, I was just talking to Amanda about this earlier. I love this feature. We have the ability to add a warranty as needed that it may apply to this particular job. So under my list of add new warranties, and of course you guys know you can add to this list all the time, I have a couple. I have a warranty specifically for customer supplied parts. Obviously, I'm not going to label your stuff, parts or labor. I actually created a warranty. This is for your California shops. Clarence, you guys might want to do this. I saw this in your soft wrench yesterday.
Yep.
I can create a warranty that is set as a default. See in the default column? That means every time I create an RO, this warranty will be added in addition to my global warranty, because in California, we're actually required to put tire pressure, actually enter in PSI. Now, this may become more integral into our software down the road, but this was kind of a bridge solution to make sure you could get your tire pressure on in the meantime. So as much as you guys need, I had one, actually I don't see what on my list, I must have deleted it. If you want to add a warranty, click Add Warranty button, because I had one for alignment. Okay, and I put alignment warranted for 90 days because we actually only did our alignment warranties 90 days. So if I were on this particular job doing an alignment, then I would just select it, and it would add it to this one. Of course, I can always add notes as needed. Lots of ability to edit as you go through. Okay, guys. So I don't know if
can those be linked at all?
Pardon me?
Can those be linked at all so that whenever you choose an alignment code, it automatically triggers the alignment?
No, no. That's a great, I've actually had that suggestion before, and yes, I have submitted it, but no, I haven't got that linked yet. The other thing you guys can do, but then it isn't under its own warranty section, which is why I love this so much, because check this out. Doing a preview. See, it shows up right under warranty and notes. Let me collapse this screen down a bit. I wish I could tie it to a labor. The other thing you can do is actually just write it right into the labor service itself to cover yourself. But yes, you do actually have to select it otherwise. So it's kind of a bummer. But I do have the feature request in, and we might get that eventually. Any questions on warranties here, guys, on how this feature works? Pretty straightforward.
This is,
Yes.
what I do is I just write it down in the labor column.
Yeah.
when I do it.
You know,
yeah.
I do have a lot of folks that just do that. So in your labor service, we'll say labor service from list. Again, master record buttons. Here's, guys, on the left. This edits the master list.
Yes.
So if I go to my alignment, let's see, my front wheel alignment and hit edit, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you could do.
Yeah, yeah.
Alignment, warranty.
That's how I've been doing it.
Good idea. And that way you're assured that it'll always be there. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So let's move on to the next link is revisions. Now, this is required in some states. A lot of states know, but some states this is very essential. This is turned on in the setups to be part of your workflow. Okay, this can get a little tricky, I'll tell you right now. And some people don't understand how the feature works. What happens is if you put all this stuff in the body of your RO, and the total comes up here, $500. Okay, let's undo this. You'll notice here in the middle, right above the little red profit monitor, it says original estimate. I am manually typing in here $500.49 to match my total, okay? I lock it. See this little padlock, guys? It's unlocked right now, and it's white. I lock it. Okay, what these guys were thinking when they wrote MaxxTraxx is that in states that require estimates be signed by a customer before they leave, if you hit OK, save, and print, once you print it, it will lock itself. Okay, it will lock itself. If you don't print it, you have to manually click the little lock. Okay, so now if I were to, let's add something else. Let's see if we go over recommended. We'll add this to request. That'll be good. Add that over. Okay, now I go to my repair order view. So now my total is $563.66. Now let's see. I don't know if I have this turned on my setups, guys. So I just clicked on setups, repair orders and parts invoices. You can turn this little box on. See, it says warned if revision of estimate is needed. And since I'm just doing it now, it may not work. I might have to exit and close it out. It might work. Okay, it didn't. So let's go back in. So if I were to add this now and see my padlock is locked, this is grayed out. Now when I save this, it'll say, hey, Sabrina, the repair order amount is greater than the revised estimate. Do you want to make a revision now? You know, frankly, throughout the day, I may be adding more and more and more to this 04 Saturn because I'm finding more stuff. So I can actually say no, or I can say yes. You know, I'm going to call the customer right now because I've just gone from an authorized beginning estimate of $500. I've just found more work, and this is now the new amount. So look at MaxxTraxx automatically puts in the date and time. I just put how I contacted my customer by phone. This is who I talked to, phone number I called, and I could put reason for revision here. I could just say needs diag, maybe check engine light. So in states that require revisions, and frankly, guys, this is kind of a good best practices, even for states that don't require revisions. So then, what does that look like? Well, first of all, I'm going back in. And again, you can turn that on in your workflow. Under my revision, I now have this authorization. But what it looks like on the RO is this line down here. It puts in revision 1, date and time, who you talk to, how you talk to them. This meets all the legal requirements for California because they are a stickler. If you don't have this on your paperwork, customer doesn't have to pay. They can come legally get their car and not pay you anything over the original amount. Okay, so pretty important.
What if you don't want to use it every day, but you have a particular customer you want to use it? Can you turn it on and off?
Yes. Well, actually, and frankly, in my demo, just because it will prompt me all the time, what I would do in that case is in my setups, I just wouldn't turn it on in the workflow. I'm going to go in and turn it off. Don't warn me. But I do have the option on the left that says print them. Print the revisions of the original estimate. So for the majority of your folks, this lady, Waltrid's been with us for, 20 years. She's great. I never have to get an authorization. But Ron, I don't know this guy. I got to watch him. So in his RO, I can just click on this revisions link and manually click Add New Revision of Estimate. Okay? And it'll just prompt me to say, yeah, I actually did get authorization from Ron. So, yeah, you could just click on the link and hit Add New, and you're good to go. And see now the revised.
On a kind of, Sabrina?
Yeah, Randy?
On a kind of distantly related subject, is there a way to turn the mileage update request off except at cash out?
Yes, you can. Great question. Under Setups, Repair Orders and Parts Invoices, you guys know this is where almost 90% of all of our setups are done in here. That's why I spend so much time with you guys during your initial install. But hard to remember all this stuff. So under RO Setups, see this little box here? You can just turn it off here and just say right before you pay it, remind you. Because this says, remind me of this repair information on the left, technicians, mileage, customer source. Now the only reason, guys, why I like to actually turn it on when you first start the RO, and I skip through it all the time. I mean, eventually you don't even see it. Because I like to be prompted to enter in my technician if I know who's going to do the job, because that way as I add labors, all these different labors, tranny, flush, brake job, alignments, whatever, it automatically puts that technician's initials on for me. That's the only reason why it's kind of handy that it prompts you in the very beginning. If it didn't prompt you in the beginning, you would have to know, well, first of all, there's nowhere really from inside here to put the information. It's kind of weird. I can put my service writer, but I can't put the technician. So how do we do that? So it's, again, a little bit kludgy. But another cool feature, I get a great segue. Thank you, Randy. If I have this RO highlighted, the stuff down here in the bottom, and of course we'll cover these links in a little bit, I can click on this box, appointment notes. I can just double click on this. And it takes me back to the original appointment screen. So I can say, oh, this is the technician assigned to the job. See here? But that, you can see it's really just not in my regular workflow. That's why I personally like it to remind me in the very beginning. But it's totally a personal preference, completely a personal preference. So technician is set here. Where's my customer source? I think my customer source is inside the RO. Let's see. Under our miscellaneous tab. Yep. Here's where I would select source if I didn't already have one in here. And also where I would put mileage. Because those are the three pieces of information that we prompt you to enter when you start that RO. But again, we leave that customizable for you guys just to work, whatever is going to be best for your workflow. Good question, Randy. Thank you.
Where does, if you select return parts to customer, where does that show up on the RO?
So first of all, where do we do that? Same thing, down here in the appointment notes field, okay? Put that little finger there, double click, and that option is right here.
And will that show up under notes?
Actually, it shows up on there. Let's select that one.
In other words,
it shows up on their estimate, the technician worksheet, and the invoice. Let's look.
Okay.
And a technician worksheet, too. So that's kind of cool, so that your technician knows not to toss those parts.
Right.
Oops, there it is. At the very bottom in red. Return old parts to the customer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. That one feature is not in your standard workflow. In fact, there's not even an option under this to actually turn it on in your workflow. It just lets us set the default here, but you actually have to do it kind of either from the make an appointment screen or, like I said, by double-clicking in that lower left, the lower right button, which I'll tell you guys, I use this little box like crazy because these notes show up either in the box when you're highlighting it, so, parts coming from Napa at 3 p.m. 12, and I put my initials. So where this shows up is when I'm highlighted on his job. You see it shows up in blue down here. It also shows up on the right. You see, needs a ride to the shop, parts coming from Napa. Pretty much because I would just write service during lunch hours. And then that way I could put my notes of what happened, so when the guys come back from lunch, they can see what happened per job. So I use the heck out of this little field. I don't know if that's necessarily what they designed it to be used for, but it does not print anywhere, just an FYI. Okay, guys, let's get back into our links. Great questions. Thanks for jumping in. Revisions, recommended, of course, you guys know how this works now. We can add a recommendation from here. If we added a recommendation from here, guys, this just goes to our reason for service list. Okay, maybe timing belt. And we may not want to do all the work to do an estimate for the timing belt. But if you select it from here, there's no dollar amount. No dollar amount, no detail. Okay? Freeform, again, you guys know I'm as anti-freeform as could be. But you never know. You could have something very unusual that you want to put down as a recommendation. But again, I'm a big fan. Put the recommendations in the body of the RO, delete it, and then it puts it over here with an amount, total, details, and everything that you can add later. So even if I add a recommendation here without details, I can hit the Add to Request button and bring it to the body. Okay? But that's all it is. It's just going to be the reason for service, and then I have to build it from there. Make sense? I have to add my parts and labor. Okay? So let's just delete that for now.
Sabrina, can you add more than one recommendation at a time on the screen?
Actually, you have to click and select, click and select. You have to, like, antenna, and then you got to add another one, brakes. So you can't just, like, hit the control key. I just learned something in our software today. Maybe you can, because I just learned something today. No. Okay, you can't. You have to do one at a time, guys. Sorry about that. I just learned something about our tech support software I've been using for 3.5 years. I didn't know until today. Okay, so notes. Pretty straightforward. This is just notes that can print on the RO if you want, or just our internal. You know, we often use in our old DOS version, you know, if you have a customer that you have to write a, these are my air quotes, special note about, if you go into their names, you can click on their name up here to get to their customer record. I love that. And click on Notes, Alerts. Put this customer will always ask for a discount. Okay, check this out. When I put a note under the alert in their customer record, I'm going to click OK. You see this little red customer alert thing? You know, they will prompt you. So it prompts you when you start an appointment, when you write an RO, and you can just click on this and see what's the alert. So make sure they're not looking over your shoulder right now, but click on the alert, and it'll bring up that alert field. And so you know, you got to build it into the estimate, right? So that's kind of a cool feature. Just be careful what you write in there. It doesn't print anywhere. It just gives you this little red thing, but it's pretty handy in case you have a problem child, if you know what I mean. That's how that works.
We use the notes section for that, so I really appreciate you pointing that out.
Absolutely, I did too. Yeah, F7, I did a lot of that. Very handy. So you just got to be careful, guys, that nobody's watching, but this does not print. You know what? Go ahead.
I used to do that at the P-Tune, you know, and it prompts me all the time.
Yes, very smart. Anything,
yeah.
You know, customers that need a ride will always ask for a ride. Customers going to ask for finance or to finance their work. You know, and these aren't always bad things. It's just to be prepared. Or, you know, this is the owner's daughter. She doesn't have to pay for anything. You know what I mean, that kind of thing.
And sometimes I even put in their dog's names and things like that, just friendly notes.
You know, that's actually a really good idea, Amanda. Just, yeah, spouses, kids. That's very smart. Actually.
You got it.
I wouldn't have done that. You know, with that being said, remember the putting a note in here is what turns on the alert. But then you guys also can see and this is in the customer record, has nothing to do with the RO, you could put all kinds of notes up here. So that's a really good point, Amanda. If you're going to click on here to see what the alert is, you can also, obviously, taken to the same screen, be able to look at all sorts of notes. So really good point. Good point, good suggestion. With that being said, guys, you can see you can click on here to get to the customer record. Very important. You can also click on the vehicle over here on the right to take you to the vehicle record if you need to look up the VIN number, production date, training, that kind of stuff. So a little side note. Marketing. This I also put into my workflow. I actually have it set up under the same spot, you guys know, under repair orders and parts invoices. I am prompted to ask for a new appointment next time. I also, at the very bottom, assign a marketing letter to send when paying an RO here at the bottom. We actually have it set in our shop most time to always. We used to have to put $1 in the fishbowl if we forgot to assign a marketing letter for every single solitary job. Either a thank you, oil change reminder, recommended services reminder. So they were the last shop I worked at spent tons of money on marketing. So that's just a workflow. But like you had mentioned about a revision, I think, Randy, you were talking about that. If you don't have that put in your workflow, you can always click this button here, assign follow-up letter. You know, let's do a thank you letter to this customer. And I'm going to say I'm going to send it in 3 days. And these, of course, guys, these are always editable. You can change these send parameters in setups under marketing. Okay? So that's a side note. Miscellaneous. I probably use this link more than anything. I spend most of my day here, right? But the miscellaneous I use a fair amount, and I'll show you why. Couple of things. If you need to change a tax code, if you have a resale customer, this is where you do it. If you need to put in the resale number or a purchase order number, if you do fleets, we always did a ton of fleet work. Maybe even for an insurance claim, you could put the PO in here for a customer. Of course, discounts. This is where you can put discounts or not put discounts. Supply charges. We don't do this in California, but most states still do charge supply charges. If somebody really complains about it, just zero it out here. That does happen. You can just take out supply charges here. I'm trying to think what else I did a lot on this screen. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. Discounts, supply charges, that kind of thing. Notice here also, guys, you see you can send an email. You can actually email this RO to somebody. You also can send them text messaging. Now, you have to have an email service set up in order to send text messaging. And when you do send text messages for the first time, we actually have to go into the customer record, under phone, enter in a cell phone number, mobile phone obviously, and we'll put mobile. And then we have to do this other part. Click on send text message to this number. This is kind of a legalese because you guys know you legally have to ask the customer permission to send them text messages, or else you can get into legal trouble. And then you select their provider. So if they change their provider on you and you don't know, that obviously will disable the text messaging. But that's how that works. So now once this is set up, I can now send text messaging. And it starts my email program and actually does a text message. So you can actually just hit send, and I just right there sent a text message to my cell phone. So that's how the email feature, or the text message feature works. If you guys need assistance in setting up that email program, please give me a call. I'm the only person that in the company does that, so I'll do it for you guys. Sometimes it's a piece of cake. It takes just like 3 minutes. But I've done about 60 of them, and I think 3 of them have ever been the same. They're always different, so let me know. And it also has to be set up on every workstation. You actually have to have email set up on every workstation to be able to text or email from that workstation. Summary. This is probably my second most often used screen, and this if you just want to do a quick little look right before you finish billing out your customer, it just summarizes your parts labor, like I got core, sales tax, that kind of thing. Parts on order, we're going to talk about this on Monday because this kind of plays into tracking our parts and managing our parts in MaxxTraxx. And most everybody, let me look at my list. Well, actually, looking at my list of everybody on this webinar, by January 1, everybody on this webinar is going to be using full accounting. Remember, in MaxxTraxx, we track every part purchase you ever do, including parts, supply charges, and sublets, in order to keep accurate financials. So this parts on order feature we're going to talk about on Monday, we'll talk about that. So when I exit an RO, let's throw something on here that I know I don't have in stock. I'm just going to grab a parts from list that I know I zeroed. Do this for fun. You know, we had talked about this a little bit on Wednesday. If I have a red circle and a slash through it, it's going to say, you know, Sabrina, you need to order that part. And what that means, not only just pick them up the phone and maybe ordering an oil filter to come be delivered, we need to get it into MaxxTraxx before we close out this RO, because that's mimicking in real life. Remember our golden rule, do in MaxxTraxx what's happening in real life. So you couldn't actually sell it and cash out this customer if you didn't actually have this part. So we need to make sure this part is in stock, no red circle or slash, before they pay them out. Now, you guys know if you have to get a customer out the door, absolutely. But we want to try to make this as a rule we get that, or else we need to go back in and fix this before we close out our day. We'll talk about that more on Monday. So in my workflow, if I hit save, it's prompting me, hey, Sabrina, order up this oil filter kit. And when I select this, and I'll order it up from WorldPack and go to my whole, you know, hit send order, but I'm not really going to do it, right, because it's somebody's account. Hit send order, and then when they actually deliver, remember I go under order parts, not restock, guys. We go under order parts to find that parts order form I just created on December 2nd, convert it, and finish it out. Double check my math and finish it out. I'll tell you, 4 years later, I'm still so excited on how easy this feature is. Oh, look at that. The fake invoice number. I was waiting for that day to happen. No, I want to put in I'm just hitting the keyboard. I can't believe I finally hit a duplicate. And now, what do we got here? First of all, our red circle and slash is gone. But also, under parts on order, there is that part. So I can see what parts, because maybe they weren't delivered yet, it actually would still say received 0. And status, instead of saying down here, or here it says stocked, it would say on order for status. So this parts on order link, guys, you know, I don't reference it that much, but if you ever need to see where the heck is that part coming from, with this line highlighted, see it says WorldPack. With this line highlighted, it says factory motor parts. So if you're waiting for delivery and you're like, where the heck is that oil filter coming from? I've got to make a call. This is insane. It's been 4 hours. You can call. You know who you got it from. That's what this is used for. And the last link here is checklists. This is a very cool feature, guys. It does take a little work to get set up in the beginning, but we have checklists in MaxxTraxx. Let's say a 15-point inspection. I'm going to hit the edit button just to show you what's in it. I've got fluids. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and select it. So this is a better view. This is my 15-point inspection. And this prints out for your technician to fill out. And then once he hands it back to you, you go in and say, okay, everything looks good, 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 good. You know what, needs, maybe I'll put here, needs brake flush. This is good. Okay, this looks good. You know, everything okay looks in here. Maybe it's needs 2 tires. I don't know. Rotate, something like that. And so what this looks like after you're done, and we hit the completed box, you guys barely can see it here at the bottom, completed, we can print this out for our customer. Very cool. And it also stays stored electronically in the RO. Now, right now, if you have a closed RO, you can't reprint the checklist, which I kind of think would be cool to reference from last time. Call me crazy. But I've got a feature request in for this. I don't know how long it'll take, but I think that would be a cool feature. Now, you need to build these, and I have a training video on how to build these on our website ahead of time, and then they just get added to this list. Okay, guys, any questions on these links? We've covered a lot of information today. Okay, let's go through options. It's actually a lot faster because there's actually not a lot to this. A lot of things that we show under here under options are either available in our workflow or available from these little links up here or these buttons across the bottom. Okay, so under options, depending on what's highlighted in the body of the RO, check this out. I can add a labor, but of course we have that button below. I can do a credit. I can do all sorts of things. There's a couple things that are not just duplicates of what's in my workflow, and that would be my vehicle history report. I actually have a bunch of shops that have said that the vehicle history report they print out and give to their technicians. So I can choose how many months back I want to go. If I want to print out the entire labor service description, not just the first line. And we now have the option to show the technicians who actually did the work. So that's an option there. Another option under here that is used a lot, but again, can be set up in your workflow, is to, instead of having to hit save and print, then get an option here to print the RO and a technician worksheet or and a checklist. Instead of having to do it this way, which of course prints us another copy of your RO we may not want, let me hit don't print, go back in. That's why a lot of people actually go into the options button and just print a technician worksheet from here. So you're not burning through a lot of paper or a checklist from here. Also, you guys know I am a huge job clock person. And lesson 10, we go into this feature, job clock and kits. We go into extensively in our webinar 2 weeks from today. Job clock details. We do have some people that actually use the job clock numbers here to actually set labor time, because it's all, maybe it's just time and materials. You're not using a flat rate guide, or you're a heavy truck shop, or you're doing restoration. So this job clock detail is very handy for the service writer to actually say, well, I'm going to bill out this customer 4 hours, because that's how long it actually took to do this, the labor. So a little side note there. I think that's kind of cool, guys. Edit repair order number. Just so you know, guys, before you print the RO the first time, you can change the repair order number. This is 10,224 up here in the lower, or up in the upper left. We actually can edit those until you print it. Once you print it, it locks it and grays out the option. You see how it's grayed out? Also, show a repair order of profit. That's the same as clicking this little 51. See this green button? This gives us our repair order profit. Very cool feature. I hope you guys all use that. Again, a guideline, not a rule, but a guideline. Very handy. And we also have to show parts sublet on RO that needs to be ordered. Now, this is a feature that I always have turned on in my workflow. Every time you guys see me do a webinar, you see that. If I have a red circle and slash on my RO somewhere, it's going to prompt me to say, hey, Sabrina, you don't have this part in stock, order it. But instead of having to do that when you exit, you actually can hit this button. And I don't have any, of course, now, but it'll tell you if you had any. Okay, notice, guys, if I change my a reason for service to a labor, these options change a little bit, because here I'm going to add parts. But again, all these guys here at the top are also available from the body of your RO in here. Okay? Any questions on the options? Okay, guys, my last thing that I want to cover, and this is a little bit thick, important stuff, but I want to cover, let me check my list, sublets. I want to cover sublets. We did quotes, links, options, custom logos, sublets. Okay, let's go to an RO that's a little bit cleaner. I've got a lot of stuff on this one. Let's see if I got anything in here yet. Now I've got a bunch of stuff in here. Let's go back to my beginning one. This is that one I told you, my pink screen that always tells me order my parts. Very, very important. And you guys know the reason why I'm passionate about that is I accidentally turned that feature off. I just got a bunch of stuff on all of these. Let me delete some of this stuff and move it off over to the record. And I'll delete this. I'll clean this up a little bit. Okay, guys. Now, the way, remember our structure here. We have a reason for service, and then our labor button is lit up. And then my sublets are grayed out. Now, we actually treat sublets in MaxxTraxx like a part. Very different because we have a couple of MotorTraxx users on the call. This is very, very, very different from MotorTraxx. So I really want you MotorTraxx users to be aware of this change. We actually need to highlight a labor in order to add a sublet. And why? Because in MaxxTraxx, we treat sublets as an inventoried item. Now, it doesn't have a sublet record to say I have, 6 sublets in stock. We don't actually have a record like that. But in the accounting, and I'm jumping into this is pretty deep, and I'm just giving you guys an overview. In our accounting, we actually have an asset account, not only for parts, but we do have an inventory asset account for sublet labor. So the way that it works, guys, is when I have a sublet labor added to my system, it goes to an asset account until it's sold, just like a part. You'll see these are all sublets I purchased. So it's actually saying I have $610 worth of sublets I have purchased that I have not sold yet, and I need to sell. So let's look at this one, for example. This is done correctly. I had a $50 sublet that I entered in, and then I sold it. So I really should have a sublet with a sold sublet to correspond to each one. And if you guys look into your systems, you'll see that you should pretty much have a pretty corresponding sale, a credit, where you're taking it out of this account for every purchase, okay? So that's a little bit of the background of this. Let's see that in action. So first of all, I have to highlight a labor, and let's say I'm going to add a toe. Let's say a toe, just for fun. Okay, so I'm going to say my toe is going to cost me $50, and I'm going to sell it for $60. I always just put a $10 bill on any sublet toe, and I click OK. So check it out. Just like a part, it's going to say, you don't have this sublet in stock, Sabrina. You need to sell it. You need to enter into the system before you sell it. So just like a part, it's going to remind me in my workflow, hey, Sabrina, oh, don't, let's see, let's remove all this stuff. Remember, because I deleted all this stuff. This is reserved specifically for that job, okay? So I get to my favorite pink screen. Click in the order column, click on Next. I select my vendor, Bill's Towing. Creates an order form just like the other guys. Of course, I have no electronic ordering for my tow guy, and I just save it. So immediately, I'm sitting here with this tow bill in my hand. Immediately, I go right back into order parts, select Bill's Towing, and convert it to receive vendor invoice. And it's $50. And I put it on account. Okay, so now let's go back into our RO. And you can see, is it this one? Oh, shoot. I'll email that. Sorry, guys, I hit a bug. Sorry, guys. Let's go back in. So one thing about, I have to say about MaxxTraxx is even if I run into a snag, nothing happens to my data, which in MotorTraxx was not the case. Okay, I think I was in this one. Yeah, I was. Okay, you see my towing is now has no red circle and slash through it. Okay, number one, let's look at parts on order. Here's my tow bill, by the way, just referenced. But what's happened here? When I click on tow charge, well, first of all, now I see Bill's Towing and see the vendor invoice. You see that? And if for any reason when I actually restocked Bill's invoice that he handed me, and the invoice cost changed, it would have changed here, but I was accurate. So what happened in the accounting? In the 13,300 account, which is my inventory for sublet labor, we now see $50. Okay, so now I'm done with this job. It's been great. Let me go ahead and just pay it. Of course, it says my job clock. Wait a minute. I have to go on my job clock. This guy must be clocked in on this job and my job clock, and I forgot. So I'm going to pay it. I'm not going to use my MaxxTraxx. It says that customer loyalty rewards program, guys. Cheap pay cash. Okay. And here is asking for my new appointment. See if I want to schedule something in the future. I'll say no. And here it's saying, hey, assign a marketing letter, add a postcard for this person. I'll just close it. I'm going to skip that as well. So now let's check out my accounting, my 13,300 account. There it is. There's my $50 I paid out to Bill's Towing. Here's my $50 that got moved out of my asset account to my cost of goods sold account when I closed out that RO. So you guys can see you should have one pretty much matching each one. And if I might have actually 3 on one ticket, and then I would have just, in this case, one credit for $230 to cover these 3, right? So the reason why I bring this up, guys, is it's really important. We used to just write our checks to Bill's Towing and post it to cost of goods. We don't do that anymore in our Windows version. That was our old way of doing it in our DOS version. So we treat it just like a part. Now, what happens if, I don't know about you guys, but I'd show up Monday morning, I could have 4 cars parked out back with all these little keys, these pieces of paper stuffed through the door. I don't even know who they are. So if they have nothing else on their ticket but a tow bill, this is what I do. Let me pick up a quick repair order. Just grab somebody. And my vehicle problem, let's see, do I have tow? I actually should have on my list here a reason for service that just says tow in. I do. It's my only reason for service. And then when I start the ticket, I may not know any of that stuff. That's okay. So now I have to put a labor to see my sublet is grayed out. So I actually have a labor here on my list for tow. That's $0. $0. But I have to have something to hang it on. So once I hit this, then I hit add sublets, and I go to my tow. And again, I may not even know how much it costs, but I'm charging this guy $100. And it'll warn me, hey Sabrina, you don't have a cost. Yeah, I know, I'm going to go on later. Again, red circle and slash. So if you guys don't have anything else you're going to do on this ticket, and maybe we found out, oh, it's a blown engine, he doesn't want to fix it, we still have to restock my tow bill. So like I said, remember guys, I put 0 cost. Upon exiting, it's going to prompt me, get that going. Bill's Towing, he's my guy for all my towing, okay? And I can even leave it at 0. Let's say I still don't know. When I go back to my order parts to enter in that receipt, and I convert to a vendor invoice, at this time, it is $80. And I'll edit here. And we're going to talk about this extensively on Monday. I can edit here and say it's $80 and post and update my inventory. Thank you for the tow and bill. Okay, so now, again, when I go back into my RO and I click on my sublet, it entered cost for me automatically. Bill's Towing was my vendor, and my vendor invoice was 61681. Make sense? Does that make sense, guys? It's just sublets are a key part of your writing service, so I want to make sure you understood that workflow. On Monday, we are going to go into cores and how cores apply to repair orders and how we track cores in MaxxTraxx. Very cool. It actually is extremely comprehensive and correct. And I'll tell you, in our DOS version, I always struggled with cores. Cores always got out of sync. but in MaxxTraxx, actually, they're very reliable. Very, very cool feature. Okay, guys, one last thing I wanted to show you may apply. It may apply to some of you guys, may not apply. But we have a feature in MaxxTraxx, and actually this is for you. Let's see, I think Marion just got on the call, and maybe Clarence, since you guys are going to be, doing a double entry for the month of December. This is what we call your company version, because you guys remember you saw me put in the logo under the company database. And remember you saw the sample right next to it? We have a utility in MaxxTraxx that says select company or sample database. So I have an option here to use this utility and say use sample company data. So it says MaxxTraxx Pro is currently using my company data. The next time I start MaxxTraxx, I want to use sample. Okay? And it's going to say to change from company to sample, you have to exit and restart. Do you want to do that now? I'm going to say yes. So check this out. It's going to reload MaxxTraxx.
Thank you.
It's going to reload MaxxTraxx, and it's going to say, with these little arrows here, Scott's Auto Repair. This is a bunch of fake stuff. Notice they all say 2007. This is an old sample database. So if you are training your folks and you don't want them in messing up your real life company data, you can switch over to the sample and say, hey, just play around with this. Try to re-enter from your old system, either MotorTraxx or SoftWrench or WindWorks or Mitchell or whatever you guys used to use. Play around in here. Add some stuff. Now, of course, this is all just sample stuff. But, it gives your people an opportunity to play around if they just want to test something out without ruining your company data, right? So that's just a feature. One thing to be careful of, guys, if you switch from company to sample data, it changes to sample data on every other workstation. So you probably only want to do this at night or maybe on the weekend if somebody wants to play around. But if you change it on one computer, it changes it on everybody. Now, of course, you're going to see here Scott's Auto Repair. And you're also going to see what happened to all my jobs. But, you don't want somebody just absent-mindedly starting a real deal. Now, I have here, if you guys get this warning, I have here that I've hit my demo limit of only 50 invoices. If you guys are playing around in your sample data and you get to this limit, just call tech support. We actually have to register your sample side to let you write more than 50. But this is kind of a cool feature. Not everybody uses it, but sometimes if you want to be running 2 tracks, practicing in one version, yet getting your real life company data ready to go, perhaps for January 1st go live date, which I have a couple of people on the call in that situation, you can always switch back and forth. But be careful because it applies to the entire network. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up unless you guys have any questions.
I'm okay here.
Well, I appreciate you guys attending. Yeah, thanks so much. And I am going to archive this. It'll be up on the website. I think I showed you guys earlier. Let's jump out really quick. I'm clicking on Help, User Manual and Training Videos, just to jump out to our website. I am putting these under the Training tab under Archive Webinars. And you guys can see so far I have Monday and Wednesdays here, Lesson 3 and 4. And it takes about an hour to produce what I just recorded. So I'll have Lesson 5 up this afternoon. So we're going to be doing this for the full 3 weeks. So if you guys have a service writer that couldn't attend because they're backing you up right now while you're on the call, they might want to jump in. And also remember, you can pause, fast forward, reverse those archive webinars. And if it's the first time you're clicking on it and they don't come up right away, because they are an hour long, I've had to let mine queue up for like up to 2 minutes before it was actually available on my monitor. Just a side note. Okay, guys, Monday is Managing Parts. So if you can, please join us for that webinar. It's going to be very, very, very useful, especially since we're all full accounting users. Okay, guys, have a great weekend.
Can I ask one question?
You bet.
tire quotes. I tried using it today, and I couldn't get it to work at all.
You know what, Randy? I would, you know what? Click on the support chat. Click on this little lady's head, and get a tech support person to jump in with you and walk you through it. If it's not working for some reason, and it's our problem, we want to record that and report it as a bug. But if it's just a user thing, if you want to jump in, a tech support can help you out with that. Or if you want to wait till Tuesdays, Thursdays, you can always join us for an open forum webinar, and we'll run through that. Just so you guys know, I'm not doing an open forum webinar on this coming Tuesday, December 6th, but I will have an open forum on Thursday. So either way, Randy, if you want to connect up to a support chat person and have them help you out, or just wait for the open forum webinar and we'll cover that, okay?
Thank you.
You bet. Good questions. Okay, guys, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, good.